I'm Dr. Katie Woodley, the natural pet doctor. In this short video clip, we're going to be talking about dog stress, what that looks like, and how we can treat it with natural therapies and remedies. I hope you enjoy.
So what are the signs that you might see in your pets? Like, we can recognize signs of stress in ourselves, right? Our heart rates go up, we feel really anxious and just jittery, we don't feel right, we can have trouble sleeping. So those are some of the signs in people. Now, what does that look like in our dogs? So one of the most common things, and it's interesting, people don't realize this is actually a sign of anxiety or stress. If you've ever noticed your dog excessively yawning, so they're sitting there and you tell them, maybe it's you tell them to do something and they look at you and they yawn and you're like, oh, are you tired? No, it's anxiety. They're actually really stressed. It may not mean that they're stressed all the time, but if you're noticing that your dog is sitting there and they're yawning a lot, it's most likely not because they're tired. It's because there's an underlying stress or stressor that's going on. If they're sitting there and trembling, they're withdrawing and hiding from you, and they're used to being social, they're trying to escape, they have destructive or aggressive behavior. So this is really, really common with separation anxiety. And guess what, everyone? What's going to happen when everyone goes back to their work schedule? All of these amazing dogs who have loved having you at home, their routines are going to change. And we're going to start to see more separation anxiety. That's going to go through the roof. So we'll talk about how to kind of manage that going back to your normal work schedule. Diarrhea. So if you've ever noticed you get an upset tummy, so like IBS in people and irritable bowel syndrome, and then all of a sudden, maybe a day or two later, you notice your dog now has diarrhea. That's stress. If you notice it flares up when you're flaring up, or you're noticing like there's been a change and all of a sudden your dog is getting diarrhea, that's a stress response. And so what we do from a conventional standpoint is you go in, right? We rule out Giardia, bacterial overgrowth. Yes, there's probably a bacterial overgrowth because their whole microbiome and GI system is upset. And then we put them on metronidazole and maybe even a probiotic, hopefully, and it goes away. And then your pet gets stressed again and it comes back. How many of you guys have ever had that? I'd love to hear, like, just comment like, yes, my dog has done that. Or maybe they have. I'd love to hear in your comments to see how many of you guys have a dog that does that. Urinating and defecating in the house. So this could be those dogs that go outside and you're like, I know you have to pee and poop. Like it's been over 12 hours. And they go out and they sniff around and then they're like, no, and they come back in and they poop. And you're like, really? You were just outside. That can be a sign of stress. And maybe there's something out in the yard. It could be something completely unrelated, but that may be a subtle sign that your pet is stressed. A big one for dogs, especially really high energy dog breeds. So like your border collies, golden retrievers can do this, German shepherds. So some of those ones that have a little bit more anxiety anyways, kind of built into them. They have a high work drive, lots of energy. Sores and lesions from over grooming. So we call these acral lick granulomas. And this is due to over grooming. And typically, yes, sometimes they're over grooming on like their wrist area if they have arthritis or there's a source of pain. But a lot of times it's because they have OCD-like behaviors and they're not getting enough energy out and they're over licking and they're creating a sore. And those things can be really, really difficult to heal. But if you're noticing your pet is doing that and it's just one spot all the time and they're just so focused on it, they're not scratching or chewing elsewhere, which could be a sign of allergies right now, which is really common in the US during this season, that could be a sign of stress. If you notice changes with appetite, weight loss, maybe they're drinking more water, these can be signs of all sorts of different diseases. But if there's been a change in the household with people, stress levels amongst the family, those can all be indicators that your pet is also stressed. If they're barking excessively, so lots of vocalization, they're making all sorts of crazy noises, this can be another sign of stress. And if they're acting more restless or even really lethargic and tired, just like us, right? What do we do when we get really anxious and stressed? Sometimes you're like, I just got to move. I got to get this out, this energy. Like, I am not right, right? And you try to figure out these ways to like work through it. And that's what's going on in your pet too. Or maybe they're like, I just need to veg out. Like, I'm done. I'm so stressed out. I need to get away. They're hiding away. They're getting away from the people in the household that might be stressing them out. Does that sound like us, right? What do we do if we're really stressed? What are most people doing right now? They're stopping from being productive and they're watching Netflix. So our pets mimic this. So a lot of the same behaviors that we do for ourselves in a time of stress, our pets, our dogs do also. So keep an eye out for that, especially if you are feeling any of those symptoms of stress and anxiety and you have a dog, they're watching and they might be feeling the same thing, but there's lots that we can do. So don't worry. Why is this so important to recognize? So especially if your pet, they're doing the yawning thing, you're like, that's cute, Okay, if it's going on for a long time, we need to recognize these signs of stress, because what can happen over the long term is that stress is a part of the sympathetic nervous system. So that's our fight or flight response. And when we trigger the sympathetic nervous system, the body releases cortisol. That's a stress hormone. We have to have cortisol some level in our bodies. But what happens when that cortisol is released all the time and the body is just being overstimulated all the time from cortisol? There's too much in the body. It can actually lead and manifest into physical conditions. So I see a lot of dogs that have separation anxiety and we don't deal with it. And then they start getting GI issues. And then they have chronic inflammation in their GI tract. And that leads to other issues because now they're not absorbing nutrients. And we can get a cascade of effects where we have this chronic inflammation in the body. And that can lead down a path that is not a path we want to go down, because chronic inflammation leads to inflammation in other organs. It can lead to autoimmune diseases, and it can lead to cancer ultimately. So we need to recognize those levels of stress, and even if they're very subtle, because if we don't, we can actually see other problems result from that. So very, very important to make sure we're recognizing those symptoms. So how can you help your stress pet? Assess their stress levels. So that goes back to that study from Nature I mentioned at the very beginning, where our dogs are in tune with us. So we both release oxytocin. So that's that love, feel good hormone when we look at each other's eyes. How incredible is that? That's why pets are so powerful and so healing for us. However, the opposite can happen too. So if you're stressed, your pet's going to unfortunately probably be stressed. And in that study, it actually showed that regardless of the level of exercise that you gave that dog, when you were stressed and not managing your stress well, your dog was still stressed. So keep that in mind. We need to manage our stress levels. What does your routine look like? What does your self-care look like right now? Maybe we need to all step that up, right? And take better care of ourselves and focus on, this amazing pet we have in front of us and be grateful for that. If that's all you got, focus on how amazing they are and how much love they give you, regardless of how hot of a mess we are, right? So make sure your pet has a safe zone. So this works really well, especially if there's like for fireworks or loud noises like thunderstorms. Some dogs will go into a closet. Give them that space. Maybe play some calming music through a dog's ears. Check that out for music. And that's their safe zone. Give them that. And that's okay. They know it's safe there. Spending more time together. That's probably not a problem for most everyone today. However, remember this when we go back to work, and if your dog is like latched on you all day, following you all around the house, separation anxiety might be coming. Even if they've never had it, it's going to be a huge change to their routine. So this is where being consistent with routines, that next step, is very important right now. So those dogs that are latched onto you, that you are worried this may turn into separation anxiety, so they destroy your home, they destroy things when you're gone, or they hurt themselves, they do silly things. Start a routine. Start back up that routine. Morning and evening, they're getting fed the same time. Their exercise routine is the same as it's going to be for when you go back to work, and also start self-isolating yourself from them. So brief periods of times they get, a tasty like frozen treat, use a Kong, fill it with some frozen oatmeal, peanut butter, or almond butter mixture, freeze that and give that to them as a reward for sitting on their mat and being calm. Start doing that more so it's not a huge shock to them. And regular exercise and playtime. Now, a lot of people are taking their dogs for 4 walks a day right now, and this may be a good time to start transitioning back into what that normal regular exercise looks like when you go back to work, so that your dog's getting used to it. So start doing 3 walks and then 2 walks. And then if it's just 1 walk a day, reward your pet throughout the day for being calm with treats if they're food motivated, keeping in mind not to overdo the treats so that they don't gain weight. And then avoiding stressful situations. So this top one, like this is so common. There's so many dogs that are leash reactive. And if who has ever been walking, you got your dog on a leash, right? And then someone else has their dog on a leash, and usually it's one of those retractable leashes. So they're like 13 miles ahead of the owner. And they're like, don't worry, he's friendly. And I'm like, but mine's not. So so many dogs are leash reactive. So if you find that your dog's leash reactive or you're concerned, avoid those situations. So, make sure you have enough space, or you're letting people know, hey, my dog's actually not okay on the leash. Can you bring your dog in? Those types of things. So your dog is not getting worked up and getting stressed and creating that stress response. And the biggest thing, if you are noticing a sudden change in your dog's behavior and you have never seen this before, you need to rule out any underlying health conditions. So especially in older pets, if you're petting them and all of a sudden they're biting you, are they biting you because they're sore? So take them into the vet clinic and have a veterinarian check them out, run some blood work. I always recommend yearly blood work anyway, so that we can track trends and see if anything's changing. Because it doesn't matter if the kidney values are in that normal range every single year, but if they started in the low normal and now they're at the high normal and it's only been a year, that's going to tell me something is going on and we need to address it before it becomes a full-blown problem. So make sure that there's not underlying health conditions. Prevention is always better than cure. So how can you help your dog's anxiety? So these are going to be some of the ways that you can help them holistically. And the number one thing is feeding an optimal diet. If your dog is prone to stress, I guarantee you, most likely at some degree, they're going to have what's called leaky gut, where there's inflammation in the GI lining, and that allows toxins and foreign proteins, food particles to pass through that GI lining into the bloodstream, and it sets up inflammation and it creates anxiety. And so our microbiome is that good bacteria. So lots of different bacteria that live inside our gut that break down the food and do all sorts of amazing things. Remember, most of the immune system is actually in the GI tract that they're finding through a lot of research for us and for our dogs and our cats. And so it's really important to manage the microbiome if we're going to be managing stress. Some of the other holistic remedies we'll mention briefly include CBDs, some supplements, calming sprays, and essential oils. These are really, really powerful for helping to reduce anxiety naturally. And the nice thing is that some dogs have to be on anxiety medication. So this is conventional meds. So like doggy Prozac. And that's okay, because we want to make sure that your pet is not feeling stressed all the time. The nice thing is that we can usually integrate some of these into that treatment protocol so that you can use less conventional, which has the side effects. So CBD is one that you do need to be careful with if your dog is on any medications, because it affects the way that drugs are metabolized in the liver. So it affects those enzymes. And so what can happen is CBD is really, really safe. However, it can affect that breakdown of those drugs. It can make the drugs stay longer in the body, which then those conventional drugs are now causing the side effects that you see. So CBD Treats, this is what we have. See, there it is. So it's a great way to introduce CBD to your pet. For using it for anxiety, we typically start with lower dosages. And then if we're using it for things like seizure reduction or cancer, that's where we start using a lot higher dosages. So your treats are always going to be a pretty low dose. And so they're a great introduction to CBD. Remember, CBD is the non-psychoactive component of the marijuana plant. So THC is the thing that gets people high. So your pet will not get high off of this. They can still have side effects if you give them really, really high dosages of it, but it's not going to harm your pet and cause any like death or anything like that, which is good. It has a very high safety level. So supplements, there's so many supplements. So one of the things I look at when I look at supplements, and this can help you navigate the supplement world, is looking for the NASC label on the back. So that's your National Animal Supplement Council. These brands apply to this to put that certification on the brand to showcase that they went through certain standards to show that their supplement line is clean, has what's in it, and is healthy for your pet. So look for that NASC label. Not everyone goes through that, and that's okay. Doesn't mean that they're bad, but it's just an extra level of safety that you can look at to see, okay, this brand went above and beyond. A lot of the anti-anxiety supplements are going to contain B vitamins, L-theanine, melatonin, milk proteins. These are all shown through research to be calming. So Western herbs, some of the calming teas that you can use, these typically have like lavender, valerian in them, chamomile tea. So things that we use to help calm ourselves, we can actually use in your dog's food. So brewing a cup, like a half cup of tea, and taking the bag out, of course, and then mixing it into their food can be a great way to help calm them down. Animal Essentials has a great supplement called Tranquility Blend, and this is a combination of different Western herbs and oat flowering tops. So kind of using some of the foods that are more calming to the body. And then what's the difference between Chinese herbs and conventional medicine? I love Chinese herbs. It is so powerful, Chinese medicine. The difference is that we're looking at the whole body. And when we do that, we're looking for the root cause. What caused this anxiety to happen? Because something changed in the body. Whereas conventional medicine, we're taking a drug, we're blocking a receptor, we're getting a result immediately, and it's treating a symptom. So we're treating anxiety, but why did the anxiety happen? If we don't treat the why, we're always going to have the issue, and it's just going to get worse. And that's where we see that cascade of events we talked about at the beginning. The downside with Chinese herbs is it takes longer, but it's not like a conventional drug. It's based on the individual pet. So we look at the full pet, the full history, and determine what herbs are going to work the best for them. It takes longer to take effect, but it's treating the root cause. And now if like you run out of the herb, it's not like a conventional drug where all of a sudden that drug's not in the system. So now that side effect, that symptom comes back. They have severe anxiety, like within 2 days. Chinese herbs takes a bit longer, and we change as that pet heals and adapts. So as we're using these herbs to heal the body, the pet will change. And the cool thing is with Chinese medicine, we change with them. So a pet typically does not stay on the same herbal formula for life. And that's a very different concept from conventional medicine that a lot of people who aren't familiar with Chinese medicine are like, why are we changing? No, it worked really well. I'm like, no, we have to change with them because that one worked great to get us to the next level and to heal the body, but we're still quite not there yet. So that's the difference between those two. And Chinese herbs are very powerful in helping anxiety and helping to get your pet off of anxiety medications. Some calming sprays that you can use, Adaptil's great. So you can plug it in. That's a diffuser, that home diffuser there, and it releases a pheromone, and it's a calming pheromone. If you're taking your pets traveling, they hate the car, the Adaptil travels great. Spray it on a blanket, put it in the car. You can spray your car with it too, and it can help calm them down. You can spray it on a bandana. It may not be enough by itself, but it's a very safe, effective way to utilize that along with some of those other things we just talked about. And essential oils. I love essential oils because they are very powerful. And they're very powerful, so we also have to be careful about what brands we're using, making sure that they're high quality, that they're organic, they're therapeutic grade. So Dr. Melissa Shelton from Animal EO, check out her brand. She has amazing essential oils for dogs and cats that are safe. She's been around forever. She knows what she's doing. Follow her Facebook group if you are on Facebook. and she answers a lot of people's questions. She has great customer service. So definitely check that out. She has anxiety blends that you can use, and she has complete instructions on how to use it. Young Living and doTERRA, two other brands. I've used Young Living for years and I love it. It's safe. You also want to be careful around cats, diffusing, using topically some of these essential oils. Lavender, chamomile, valerian, great starting points. If you're just getting started with some of the essential oils, just put a single drop in a diffuser, start with diffusing, allow your pet to be able to get out of the room so you're not trapping them. So if they don't like it, they can leave. And then you can always work your way up. Make sure you're working with someone that knows what they're doing if you're starting to use them topically, or if you're even looking at having them ingest it. But a lot of times you can just get away with diffusing these, and especially if you're using other supplements or Chinese herbal medicine, those will do the trick. So there's a lot of things that we can do to control our pet's health. So if you're, at the beginning, you're thinking, I'm not sure if my pet has anxiety. Hopefully now you can see that there's certain things that, maybe they're excessively yawning, or maybe they are trembling or vocalizing more, or, I am really stressed and I think that might be rubbing off on my pet. So you can look at that and assess now. And if you're worried about an underlying health condition, make sure your pet just gets checked out at the vet clinic. And then using some of those supplements and behavior modifications and making sure like the house is set up appropriately to create a safe zone, giving them routines, then trying things like valerian essential oils, lavender tea, chamomile tea, using that tranquility blend from Animal Essentials, maybe even looking into CBD, may be something that is going to benefit your pets to help them. However, if you're feeling alone still and you're like, I still don't know where to start, let me know. I would love to partner with you guys.
Hey pet parents, it's Dr. Katie. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, can you do me 2 simple favors? Number 1, share it with someone else. And number 2, subscribe to this channel by clicking down below so you can continue to get updates every time I release new videos to help your pet thrive. Also, if you're wondering how your pet can achieve optimal health and listening to our videos made you wonder if this can work for your pet, we have an amazing membership site that can really help your pet thrive naturally by being a part of our incredible community of pet parents like yourself. Maybe you're here because you're tired of not having other options to help your pet live their best life and feel amazing. Or maybe you're here because you feel alone in figuring out how to help your pet holistically. Let's partner together today and take the worry out of caring for your pet so you have many more days to share the joy and love with them. Click the link below to grab a 2-week free trial in our Healthy Paws membership. Look forward to seeing you on the next video. Until then, remember you're not alone in helping your pet thrive naturally and live each day to their fullest potential.